Welcome, everybody. This is the workshop for the mayor and aldermen, January the 4th, 2018. Hope everybody had a happy holidays, and this is to be the first meeting of 2018. Everybody look at the bulletin board, the rules of conduct, and it'll be in effect, and Officer Eubanks and Call will be the Sergeant of Arms. Nobody signed up for citizens' comments, so we're just going to roll right on into the workshop. The prayer will be Vice Mayor Green, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be with Alderman Brown. We all need to look over the minutes for December the 5th, 2017 regular meeting. We have 3 presentations. One tonight is an audit report, yearly Howell and Associates. This will be supposed to be workshop only. The other 2 certificates of appreciation will be Tuesday night. So if the yearly and Howell and Associates come up, we'll get started on the audit report.
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. As the mayor said, I'm Greg Howell with Erie Howell & Associates, and I'm here to present your June 30th, 2017 audit report. Your audit report did receive an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of opinion. It means your financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As you're aware, your prior year report did receive the Government Finance Officer Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This means your report meets the highest standards in financial reporting, and that you go far beyond the minimum in providing financial information to your citizens. We believe this year's report continues to meet those high standards. This time I'd like to go over some graphs I prepared, which summarizes some of the financial highlights and trends for the year. The first graph breaks down your revenues into the various categories. You receive about 65% of your revenues from local taxes, about 21.8% from intergovernmental sources such as the federal government, county government, whatnot, about 1.5% from fines and penalties, almost 10% from licenses and permits, and some other revenues and uses of property and money make up the remainder. Those are pretty much consistent with the prior year. The breakdown is very consistent with the prior year, no major changes. The next graph breaks down your expenditures in 3 different categories. The largest category is your current expenditures. That's your day-to-day operating expenses. The other 2 categories are your debt service and your capital outlay. This year, you spent about 18.5% of your total expenditures on debt service. That is up this year. The reason that being up is that you refunded the 2006 general obligation bonds, and that by refunding those bonds, that made your debt service expenditures higher than they have been in the past. But by doing that refunding, I think it's going to save you about $150,000 over the life of the new bonds in debt service costs, and that's the reason you refunded those bonds. Your capital outlay is about 13.3% of the budget. In the prior year, it was less. It's about $900,000 more in 2017 as it was 16. The increase is primarily related to your Greenway project. You got that project up and going in 2017 and spent about $1.2 million on that project in 2017. The next graph takes your day-to-day operating expenses and breaks it down by department. Public safety is about 57.5% of your total day-to-day operating expenses. General government's about 17.9%. Streets and stormwater is 12.6%. Library 3.7%. Recreation 5.3%. Health and wellness 3.2%. Those are fairly consistent with the prior year, except for recreation being down in the prior year, recreation about 6.7% of your total expenditures. In 2017, it's 5.3. I don't know whether you recall or not, you changed the way you were doing your concessions in 2017 through 2016. I think you let some nonprofits handle that. In 2016, you had higher salaries and higher expenses related to how you did concessions, and that's why recreation expenses are lower this year than they were in 2016. The other departments are pretty comparable to how they were in 2016. The next graph breaks down your salary and wages. About 68% of your salary and wages go for fire and police, 13% approximately to general government, 8.6 to stormwater, 2.2 health and wellness, 4.6 recreation, and 3.6 library. Those are very comparable to the prior year, except, again, recreation, their salaries are down a little bit, I think for two reasons, because of the way you the way you handle concessions. I think there was a position or two that was vacant part of the year in 2017 that contributed to their salaries being down a little bit. All the others are pretty comparable to the prior year. The next graph is the revenue trends. It shows how your revenues have changed over the past 4 years. If you'll notice, local taxes have shown an increase every year for the past 4 years, and that's primarily been related to your local sales tax. In 2017, your local sales tax was up about $1.3 million over what it was in 2016. It's showing some real good growth in that area the last 4 years. Your property taxes were down just a little bit due to you had a small rate decrease in your property tax rate, so they were down a little bit. And your business taxes were up about $150,000 in 2017 from 2016. The next section of that graph is your intergovernmental revenues. The red part of that graph is showing an increase over the green from prior year. That's primarily related to two things: the state sales tax being up just a little bit, and then the Greenway grant. You got about $1.2 million on the Greenway grant, and that increased the intergovernmental revenues from the prior year, made that increase. All other areas are very similar to the prior year. The next graph shows your expenditure trends. If you notice, your current expenditures have been just about the same the last 3 years. That shows some very good operational controls. You haven't experienced very little, if any, increase in those areas, so you are showing some controls. The debt service, as I mentioned a minute ago, it's up because of the refunding of the 2006 GO bond. And in capital outlay, I explained it is up due to the Greenway project. If you notice, back in 14 and 15, capital outlay was considerably higher in those years. Those are the years when you spend a lot of money on getting the fire department up and going. And that's what contributed to those years being higher. The next graph shows your current expenditure trends. General government was up just a tick. I looked into that to see what that was. There were two departments that had a little bit of increase over prior year. Human services was up just a little bit, and IT services were up just a little bit. That's what contributed to the general government having a little bit of increase. Public safety is almost the same as it was last year. Salaries are up a little bit, but repairs and maintenance and supplies were down. That kind of evened that out. So public safety, fire, and police were pretty much the same as they were in the prior year. The other departments, streets, stormwater, health and wellness, were about the same. Library is about the same. As I explained, recreation was down due to the way you handle the concessions for your recreation programs. All right, the next graph shows your salary and wages trends. Everything was pretty much comparable. Public safety was up just a little bit. I think police salaries were up about $104,000 over last year, and fire department was up about $100,000. And I think that may have been to a position or two plus some raises, but a pretty small increase. But that's what contributed to the public safety being up just a little bit. The next graph shows your medical insurance fund. This is the fund that takes care of the health insurance and health care costs of your employees. You'll notice back in 15 and 16, the red line's higher than the green line, so your premiums or the amounts you collected from the departments to fund this insurance fund were higher than the benefits you paid out. In 2017, your benefits were higher than your premiums paid in by about $462,000. So this made your reserve in that fund go down. Your reserve at the end of 16 was $1.2 million, and that's about $811,000. You still got a good, safe reserve for that, but you'll have to keep a watchful eye on that fund to make sure in the future you balance that out somewhat. The next graph shows your water and sewer operations. Over the last 3 years, you've shown a profitable water and sewer operation. After debt, it's about $2.3 million. This $2.3 million is used to pay off your debt as well as fund the growth and improvements that are being required due to the growth you're experiencing in your community here. But it's shown over the last 4 years, you've gotten your water and sewer fund in a real good, sound financial position. And we had some problems back about 4 or 5 years ago when rates weren't quite what they needed to be, but you've gotten those up, and so you've gotten that fund in a real good financial position. Next page shows your debt service requirements. The red line is your general long-term debt, the green line being your water and sewer debt. Your debt service for general fund is about $1.75 to $1.6 million per year through 2022. You might notice in 2018, the very first red line, it's higher. The reason that amount is higher, you've got this one more payment to make to the state for the Waldron Road project, and that contributes to that red line being higher there to pay that one last payment to them, and that payment to them will be over with after this year, and you'll go down to a regular debt service type situation. The water and sewer fund debt service requirements are about $1.75 to $1.3 million per year through 2031. Next rate just compares your city and county tax rates. The county rate was the same last 2 years. You might notice you had a little bit of a decrease in your rate between 2016 2017, and that's demonstrated in this graph here. But tax rates have been fairly consistent since 2012. The last graph is your fund balance. The red line is your total fund balance for all your governmental funds, and the green line is your general fund unrestricted fund balance. You've added to your fund balance each of the last 4 years. Your fund balance, your unrestricted fund balance is about $17.5 million. Your unrestricted fund balance is, no, your unrestricted is $17.5 million. That's about 9 months of operations. The general rule of thumb is you need at least 6 months to have a good, safe fund balance. So you're above the safe level. You've got a good, strong fund balance, and something that you can weather any storms that the city might encounter. That completes the graph situation. As far as findings, the city addressed all the findings of the prior year and resolved them except for the finding related to the excessive water loss. That has been partially resolved. The city does have a plan in place to continue to look at that water loss problem and to solve it. I had 3 items in my management letter I talked about. One being you might want to look at requiring your departments to reconcile their gas usage by vehicle and explain any variances to make sure we got tight controls over the gasoline usage. We've got a couple of departments that aren't depositing their funds within 3 days. Good cash management requires that those be deposited in 3 banking days, and those were just some isolated cases. There weren't a general thing, but there were a couple of departments had a few instances where they didn't get them in the bank in 3 banking days. And the other situation had where the board should document in the minutes the justification for not accepting the low bid on competitive bid contracts. That one contract we had that wasn't documented why the low bid was not accepted. That completes my presentation. I'll be glad to address any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
So with your recommendations that you just mentioned, with the last one, does that encompass the audit that y'all were doing just recently with the hazard, or the hazmat?
That was a particular situation, yes, sir.
Okay, so your recommendation is that
Anytime you don't take the low bid, it should be documented in the minutes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any further questions? Good job, thank you.
Appreciate it.
That being done, we're moving down to old business. Second reading ordinance 2017-24, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2017-2018 general fund budget for the purchase of a fire department pumper truck. This is second reading. We didn't talk about it in first reading. Any questions on number 4? Number 5, second reading, ordinance 2017-25, an ordinance to amend Title 20, Chapter 2, Section 2-208 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding park and rec user fees. We spoke at that at first reading, and AC, that's just house cleaning. That really ain't gonna affect the rentals of the buildings. It's the deposit mostly, ain't it?
Yeah, the price of the rental buildings doesn't change, but we had a lot of problems with people not cleaning up after themselves and just foregoing that $100 deposit, which, apparently a lot of people it isn't a big deal. So we raised the deposit to $200. Maybe they'll be a little more conscientious as far as leaving the place trash, because it's, sometimes it's 3-4 hours of work, for a couple of guys to try to get that thing where it needs to be, and you have a rental the next morning, so that's one of the reasons we wanted to raise the deposit.
But that's deposit. If everything is put back in place, they do get the deposit back as usual, yeah.
That's just for the ones who don't feel a need to clean up after themselves and leave a ton of work for the guys.
Any questions on AC on number 5?
AC, why did you stop at 2?
Stop at 2?
Yeah.
Well, because it's been 100 for so long, we just figured, we raised it up another $100, that would be,
The reason I'm asking, I think 250 or even higher would be reasonable.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, if you call a cleaning service,
Yeah.
it's going to be more than $100.
Right.
For
Well,
doing
this
that
is a figure that Bruce and I kicked around. We're not opposed to any kind of changes the board wants to make, that's fine.
Any further questions? We're down to number 6, consent agenda. A, approve agreement with the Tennessee Department of Health. Bruce, this is something we do every year, right?
Yes, sir. This is an agreement we do with the state every year. Technically, it goes into effect July 1st of 2017. For some reason, they always get it to us real late. I don't know why, but that's why we're just now approving the agreement at this time. This is something we do every year. It's a $4,000 payment that we pay. We're supposed to pay quarterly to the health department for their services.
Number B, approve agreement for engineering service with CTI Engineering Incorporated for the Fergus Road Drainage Basin Sewer Rehabilitation Project. Mr. Hall.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. You have for your consideration tonight an agreement with CTI Engineers. We have completed sewer investigation in 3 drainage basins. We've worked with you in completing construction for sewer rehab in one of those basins. The second basin is a Hollandale drainage basin. It is under construction now. The investigation has been completed in Fergus Road drainage basin, and this is an agreement for us to do the design and construction administration for the sewer rehab project for the Fergus Road drainage basin. We've estimated the cost of the rehabilitation project to be a little over $500,000. Our agreement is for a little over $55,000. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any question for Mr. Hall?
Thank you.
We're down to number C, approve professional service contract with the Greater National Regional Council to verify the 2018 special census. Bruce, I guess this is the census we involved in going on now.
Yes, sir. As part of the special census that we're doing, part of the process, once we get everybody counted, we have to turn it into the GNRC, and they basically go through and verify our data, make sure it's accurate, and then they take it and submit it to the state for their final verification and put it into place. So it's something that the state law requires that we have to do as part of the census process. The total cost in this contract is $4,945. We have that money in the budget for this process because we knew we would have to pay it. So this is a planned thing.
Any question on the census? It's something everybody needs to participate in because every new citizen that we report, that adds $127 extra. So that's very important because that could be used for fire, police, roads, infrastructure. It goes right into the general fund, right, Bruce?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So everybody needs to be accounted for because that could add up to a lot of money. The last census was done, when was it? Was it 2000
2010 federal.
2010?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the population back then, Bruce?
32,588.
32. So it's going to be quite, hopefully, quite a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And that'd be a substantial amount of money that could be used. Any questions on any of the consent agendas items? We're down to new business, a resolution 2018-01, a resolution to accept Woodsong Section 6 and Woodsong Section 7 subdivision. I think didn't it receive a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission last month?
At the December 28th meeting, I believe it was. Yes, sir. It was a favorable recommendation on both.
And that'd be up for Tuesday night approval. Any questions on the resolution?
I do. Are there any complaints within that neighborhood?
I have not received any. Randolph,
Question.
have you received any complaints in Woodsong 6 and 7? I know it's above ground electric, the street lights are up. I've not had any major drainage complaints that I know of.
I've heard of none.
Stuff like that, so I don't think there's any.
Great.
But y'all looked, everything's in order, all the drainage, is the streets had the final coating on it, sidewalks is done, everything is,
Road control, street lighting, stop signs, you name it, it's all,
everything's good.
everything's good, sidewalks, paving, it's all good.
Okay. Good deal. Now we're at number 8, this appoint or remove board members or committee members. Bruce?
Yes, sir. The first one is the Beer Board. The term for Michael Jolly expired on December 31st. We did contact him, and he would like to stay on this committee. We heard back from him this morning. So he is the only applicant. We have been advertising this on Channel 3 and have not received any other applications. B is the Greenway Advisory Committee. We have one term vacant and one term that expired December 31st, 2017, and that one that expired is for Robert Lee. We have tried to contact him, and we're trying to get a response to see if he wishes to remain on this board. And then we have the existing vacancy. We've been advertising both of these positions on Channel 3, have not received any applications. If we do not get a response back from Mr. Lee or we do not get any new applications by Tuesday, we'll take this off of the agenda. 8C is the Historical Preservation Advisory Committee. And we had one term that expired at the end of December. That was for Tony Venata. We did contact him, and he would like to remain on this committee. We did advertise it on Channel 3, have not received any other applications, so he is the only applicant at this time. D is the Library Board. There are two terms that expired at the end of December, and those were for Monteek Luster and for Dan Garrett. We were able to get in touch, obviously, with Montique, and she would like to stay on this committee. We have not heard back at this time from Dan Garrett. Hopefully, we'll have a response back before Tuesday. But here again, we do not have any other applications at this time. Letter E is the Local Emergency Planning Committee. These are the 5 terms that expired at the end of December. It's Chris Clark, A.C. Davis, Burrell Davis, Ricky McCormick, and myself. Staff's recommendation is just to reappoint these same 5 individuals. If any one of these individuals cannot attend for their department, the ordinance does allow for someone else in that department to fill their spot for that meeting. So it's not really critical that, you know, somebody can fill in for these folks if needed. Letter F is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. We had 1 term that expired at the end of December, which was Michael Dial, who was actually just appointed back in October. We were able to contact him, and he does wish to remain on this committee. We do not have any other applications at this time, so he is the only applicant. G is the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. We have 1 term that is vacant and 1 term that expired at the end of December, which is Doug Schaefer's position. We were able to get in touch with him, and he does wish to remain on this committee. The other vacancy was when Sybil Pedigo was removed 2 or 3 months ago. We've been advertising both of these positions on Channel 3, have not received any new applications. Letter H is the Stormwater Appeals and Advisory Board. We had 1 term that expired at the end of December, and that was for Earl Garvin Jr. We were able to get in touch with him, and he does wish to remain on this committee, or on this board, rather. We've been advertising it on Channel 3, have not received any other applications at this time. Letters I and J are just information purposes only. I is the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a term that expires at the end of January, that being Alton Goodwin Sr. We will get in touch with him to see if he wishes to remain on this board. And then J is the Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals. We have a term there that's going to expire at the end of January, and that term is Felicia Anderson. We will talk to her and see if she would like to remain on this board. And here again, we'll advertise both of these boards on Channel 3 and see if we get any other applications for those 2. But these 2 items will not be on the agenda for Tuesday night.
That puts us down to Mayor and Alderman comments. Alderman Cole.
Just want to remind everybody about the Boy Scout Pancake Breakfast on the 16th at Laverne First United Methodist. And Happy New Year.
Alderman Brown.
I want to wish everyone in Laverne a Happy New Year, and I hope that Laverne and the people all within Laverne have a prosperous and happy New Year. I also really want to stress the importance of filling out the census. It's very easy to do. You can go to our website, click on the link. It's just a couple of questions. It can really make a big, huge impact on projects that I know are near and dear to your heart. So if you'll just take you a couple of minutes to do that, it would save us from having to go knock on your door and interrupt you while you're trying to fix dinner or whatever. So I would just really appreciate everyone filling out the census that can. Thank you.
Alderman Jones.
I'd just like to concur with what Alderman Brown just said and wish everyone a Happy New Year.
I'd like to remind everybody, Saturday the 13th, the Laverne Rescue Squad's having a ham breakfast from 6 to 10, and that's at the Laverne Rescue Squad Center at 141 Gamble Lane. And thank everyone for a great 2017, and I'm looking forward for a great 2018, and I want to thank all the city employees for their hard work in the past year. You know, we broke records and made strides, and we was reported on Channel 2 as being the top 10 of the most safest cities in Tennessee, and also we was reported being the top 10 for the most financially sound city in Tennessee. And we also, lowered the ISO rating from 5 to 3, and that was a plus. And I think, we've done a good job in 2017, and it shows. And I just want to appreciate everybody's hard work in 2017 and just keep it going in 2018. And I want to go out to the families of the Dangerfields and the Montgomerys and also the Brannons for their loss. Keep them 3 families in their prayers. And I have nothing else, and I'll call this workshop over.